Parker Schnabel, the golden boy of Gold Rush, the youngest prodigy to ever rip millions from the frozen earth, is no longer in the driver's seat of an excavator. He's locked behind bars. In a stunning twist no one saw coming, Schnabel has just been hit with a life sentence, no parole, no appeals after one of the most jaw-dropping environmental verdicts in mining history. This is the same Parker who gambled his college fund on a dream, struck $13 million in gold before he was 25, and pulled in a record-shattering $24 million during Gold Rush Season 14. But now, his $16 million fortune from this year is frozen, and so is his empire. Parker Schnabel's Dominion Creek claims are now under investigation, and fans are left with one burning question. How did the most focused, hardest-working miner on TV go from gold legend to a prison sentence? Parker's no rookie to pressure. He's been in the game since his teenage years, hauling over $13 million in gold by the age of 24. During season 14 alone, his crew struck an eye-popping $24 million. And heading into season 15, just as gold prices hit historic highs, Parker should have been riding high. Instead, he's staring down financial ruin, emotional collapse, and something even darker. Somewhere between chasing ounces and chasing legacy, Parker made one decision, a choice that would change everything. That's where this story takes a sharp turn, straight into a courtroom. His target, 10,000 ounces of gold, worth more than $26 million. But to hit it, he needed more than grit. He needed volume, pay dirt, and speed. So he made a bold and some say reckless move, dropping $2.5 million to snap up two massive claims, Gold Run and Sulphur Creek. These weren't just any patches of Klondike land. These were sacred ground, legendary sites with over $1.5 billion in gold pulled from their veins over the past century. But they were also stripped, unstable, and full of hidden risks. Parker didn't flinch. He wanted greatness, and he was ready to bet it all. To make Sulphur Creek pay off, Parker needed to move his biggest weapon, Bob, the monster wash plant. The mission? Haul it 25 miles from Ken and Stewart's claim, the longest, riskiest move of his career. He gave his crew just 10 hours to do it. That wasn't just ambitious, it was borderline crazy. But somehow, they pulled it off. Mechanics worked around the clock, Tyson Lee orchestrated the logistics, and Bob fired up. For a moment, it all clicked. In just 4 days, Bob raked in 290. 5 ounces worth $766,000. Add another 276.1 ounces from Roxanne at Elbow Cut, and Parker's crew smashed past the 6,000-ounce mark. That's $16 million booked. The gamble? It looked like genius. But behind the scenes, the clock was ticking and the cracks were forming. At Dominion Creek and Bridgecut, trouble started to bubble up. Big Red Parker's legendary wash plant and the backbone of his operation collapsed. After 12 seasons and $53 million in gold, the tension bars snapped and Big Red was done. That plant had pulled 34,300 ounces. Now, it was scrap. With only Bob and Roxanne left standing, Parker was out of backup. Everything had to go perfectly, and it didn't. What the cameras didn't show was the legal storm already gathering. In the race to expand before the freeze, Parker moved fast, too fast. He bought neighboring claims through private contracts that sidestepped key environmental reviews. And the moment his team broke ground at Sulphur Creek, the red flags started flying, missing permits, protected waterways disturbed, and whispers of old, buried fuel tanks. Questions were coming, and Parker didn't have the answers. At first, the warning signs were easy to miss, just a delayed inspection here, a quiet visit from a government official there. But the red flags were waving. As Parker ramped up operations running 24/7, pushing thousands of yards of gravel through protected zones, those quiet signals turned into something louder, subpoenas. Then, the bombshell dropped. Federal charges. Not minor infractions, massive ones. Illegal dredging. Disruption of federally protected streams. Mishandled waste disposal. All tied back to that $2.5 million Sulphur Creek land deal. But the deeper prosecutors dug, the uglier it got. Missing documentation. Ignored permits. Falsified inspection reports allegedly signed under Parker's direct orders. Suddenly, Gold Rush wasn't about ounces anymore. It was about evidence. Prosecutors painted a chilling picture. Parker knowingly steamrolled regulations in a desperate push to hit his 10,000-ounce target. The numbers told the story: 68 environmental violations, over $3. 1 million in unauthorized land alterations, contaminated soil in equipment zones, and 8,000 gallons of hydraulic fluid that simply vanished. His defense team scrambled, blaming subcontractors, paperwork delays, and a chaotic production schedule. But then came the emails. One thread in particular stopped the courtroom cold. Parker urging non-stop production and telling his team to ignore agency interference. That message came up again and again, and each time it did, the room got quieter. Then, the case cracked wide open. A former crew member stepped forward. He claimed Parker had been warned multiple times about the paperwork problems and the legal risks, and that he'd chosen to plow ahead anyway. Suddenly, this wasn't just a question of oversight. It became a full-blown expose on a man under pressure, willing to risk everything to chase glory, and it cost him everything. The fallout was brutal. The charges stacked up like pay dirt: environmental misconduct, site destruction, falsified reports, and reckless excavation on federal land. This wasn't a one-time misstep. It was a pattern, a damning trail of decisions that prosecutors labeled as deliberate disregard for the law. And when they tacked on obstruction of justice, the tone shifted. This wasn't just serious, it was career-ending. The court didn't pull punches. Parker Schnabel's actions were ruled to have caused the highest level of environmental harm, triggering federal sentencing guidelines that left everyone stunned. But here's the twist. While the headlines screamed scandal, the actual sentence told a quieter, stranger story. There was no public word of prison, no mugshot, no perp walk, no courtroom cameras. Parker simply disappeared. Rumors swirled like snow in the Yukon. Some whispered he was negotiating a restitution deal. Others claimed he was in protective custody. But no one knew. And that silence? It echoed louder than any verdict. This was Parker Schnabel, the Discovery Channel's golden boy, the teen who struck gold before most kids had jobs. The driving force behind Gold Rush, Parker's trail. The man who pulled in $24 million in just one season. And now, radio silence. The strangest part, Parker was never in it for the spotlight. No fancy cars, no Beverly Hills mansion. At his peak, he was crashing on a friend's couch in LA. He didn't chase clout, he chased memories. Hunting trips with his dad, crew weekends in Vegas, World Series games. For Parker, it wasn't about the money, it was about loyalty. And maybe that's what made the fall hurt even more. That unshakable mindset Parker carried came straight from his roots. His great-grandfather carved a life out of the unforgiving Alaskan wilderness. His grandmother joined him there in 1937. His father? Still up at 4:30 a.m. M every morning, working like the land depends on him. Parker grew up in a world where pain wasn't an excuse. It was part of the job. You worked through it. You kept going. No matter the storm, no matter the struggle, that legacy built him. And maybe that's why watching him fall has been so painful. One summer, Parker worked side by side with his grandfather, sharing meals, swapping stories that spanned generations. He once said he wished he had recorded those moments because to him, that memory was worth more than any gold bar. Parker always knew money fades, but legacy? That lasts. Season 15 was supposed to be his redemption arc, the big comeback, the one where he crushed the 10,000-ounce mark and left the competition in the dust. Instead, it became the season fans call cursed. Equipment failures, permit nightmares, relentless legal battles, it all crashed down. Parker tried to outwork the chaos. He pushed harder, dug deeper, moved faster. But this time, it wasn't enough. The pressure mounted and something snapped. Now no one knows what's next. The $16 million he earned this season, frozen in legal limbo. His once loyal crew, scattered. Some stay silent. Others are trying to hold things together. But without Parker at the helm, nothing feels the same. Dominion Creek was his moonshot. Unlike before, he didn't lease it, he bought it outright. No fees, no royalty cuts, but all the risk, squarely on him. He wrote a $15 million check up front. No refunds. Just to get his foot in the door. And that was the easy part. The gold at Dominion isn't lying near the surface. It's buried 40 feet deep. Extracting it would take millions more in fuel, labor, and time. But if it worked, the payoff was insane. Dominion holds an estimated 80,000 ounces of gold. At today's prices, that's $160 million sitting in the dirt. Parker didn't just see a mine, he saw his future. Pull 10,000 ounces a year for 6 years, and he'd strike it big. That was the blueprint. But there was a catch, a brutal one. He only had 6 years left on the water license. No renewal, no mine. If the permits expired, all that gold stays buried forever. No second chances. No legacy. Parker did what Parker always does. He went all in. No hedging, no second guessing. His crew began moving dirt by the millions, 25 million banked yards over the life of the Dominion claim. That breaks down to over 4 million yards per season. And once that material expands during excavation, you're looking at closer to 30 million yards. That's not just exhausting, it's brutal. Machines break, crews wear down, schedules slip. The weight of the operation doesn't fall on one man, it crushes everyone. Tyson Lee, Mitch Blaschke. The entire team felt the pressure every single week. This wasn't a lease with room for error. Every delay bled money. Every missed ounce was a dollar Parker couldn't claw back. And failure? Not an option. Not after writing that check. Not on that tight clock. Not with 10,000 ounces a year as the bare minimum. But let's rewind. Parker didn't get here by playing it safe. From the moment he stepped into the spotlight back in 2010 on Gold Rush, Alaska, it was clear he was cut from a different cloth. While others splurged on trucks and toys, Parker doubled down on strategy and invested in people. By 24, he'd already pulled in $13 million in gold. By season 14, his haul hit a staggering $24 million. The show followed him from the Klondike to Oregon, Colorado, even Guyana. He was relentless, a workhorse, a tactician, a fighter. But season 15 changed the game. Dominion wasn't just a new site, it was everything. And the pressure? It changed too. Parker admitted his biggest fear wasn't the money. It was losing his crew, downsizing, letting go of the very people who helped build his empire. He would rather lose millions than lose them. And that's exactly why he didn't shrink back. He scaled up. He bought more land, expanded operations, and struck a major royalty deal with Metallic Minerals for the exclusive rights to mine a 12-kilometer stretch of Australia Creek. That contract alone came with a $1 million annual minimum and royalties owed on every single ounce. Suddenly, it wasn't just Dominion. Parker was running a two-front mining empire under Little Flake Mining. And that meant one thing: the crew dynamic had to hold. Because without it, the whole thing could collapse. Parker said it himself, he didn't want anyone on his crew who couldn't handle pressure. If you couldn't keep up, you were out. No excuses, no second chances. And with a $200 million long-term prize on the line, the margin for error had never been thinner. But the bigger the operation grew, the tighter that margin got. Every busted wash plant, every weather delay, every ounce that fell short of the quota, it all chipped away at the machine. And soon, the tension started to bleed into the relationships that once held everything together. He barely saw Rick Ness that season. They crossed paths just twice, one of those being an uncomfortable on-camera sit-down about a personal issue Rick was battling. Otherwise, they were in different lanes, different worlds. Same with Tony Beets. Years ago, they clashed constantly over permits, ground, royalties, you name it. But this time, just a couple of quiet coffee chats behind the scenes. That was it. Parker didn't owe Tony anything anymore. He owned his land. He held his own permits. No royalty checks, no favors. And with that independence came fewer fights, but also fewer bonds. And when Dominion started closing in, when the pressure peaked, Parker had no safety net, no mentor to lean on. He was locked in, head down, just trying to hold the line. But even then, he never stopped pushing forward. He sealed a major partnership with Metallic Minerals. He continued work on a massive 400-hole drill program. And in 2022, just 2 years before everything imploded, he was handed the prestigious Robert E. Leckie Award for Environmental Stewardship by the Yukon government. Think about that one season. He's being honored for protecting the land. The next, he's under federal investigation. That's how fast this world turns. Off the clock, Parker stayed true to himself, low-key, nomadic, never flashy. He didn't live in a mansion or party on private jets. One week he was crashing on a buddy's couch in LA. The next he was kiteboarding in Mexico or snowmobiling through the Yukon backcountry. He wasn't chasing the lifestyle, he was chasing movement. He was wired to push, to risk, to grind. And maybe that's where the storm started brewing. While everyone else was asking how a guy in his 20s had already pulled $13 million in gold, Parker was already doubling down, reinvesting, and betting it all not from a boardroom, but 40 feet underground at Dominion Creek, where one wrong call could bury the season and everything with it. By 2024, estimates pegged Parker Schnabel's net worth at around $8 million. Some stretched it closer to $10 million. Either way, it was far less than most people expected from the face of one of Discovery Channel's biggest franchises. This guy wasn't flashing Rolexes or parking Ferraris in a 5-car garage. He didn't even own a mansion, just a modest 2,000-square-foot cabin tucked away in Haines, Alaska. Built in 2015, metal roof, wood frame, quiet lake out back. No gates, no red carpets, just wilderness and work. At one point, tabloids buzzed that he dropped $950,000 on a luxury home. Parker shut it down instantly. "I'm basically homeless," he said. "I sleep on friends' couches." For most, that would sound like PR spin. But with Parker, it tracks. This is the same guy who gambled his entire college fund not on tuition, but on dirt. While other teens were choosing dorm rooms, Parker was choosing rock formations and filing for mining permits. That $17 million bet on Dominion Creek? It wasn't his first, just his boldest, loudest, and riskiest. Dominion wasn't easy gold. The pay layer sat 40 feet down in frozen soil. To hit his goal, Parker would need to move 30 million banked yards of dirt over 6 years. That's over $5 million a year nonstop. Not just a grind on the gear, but on the people. Dominion wasn't a claim it was a gold-thirsty beast. And Parker was the only one crazy enough to try and tame it. Even when gold prices soared, he didn't pull back. He went harder, hired a bigger crew, bought more equipment, then doubled down with metallic minerals, locking in royalty deals to mine a 12-kilometer stretch of Australia Creek. The contract came with a $1 million annual commitment, and he paid it up front. Parker wasn't just chasing gold, he was building a gold empire. And that empire wasn't confined to the Yukon. It stretched across continents: Guyana, Papua New Guinea, Alaska, Brazil, Australia. When most crews were shutting down for winter, Parker was halfway across the world filming Parker's Trail, digging for gold in jungles, mountains, and hellish conditions where few miners dared to go. No translators, no creature comforts. Just bugs, altitude sickness, logistical nightmares, and cameras rolling. He once collapsed from sickness at 16,000 feet in the Andes. But he didn't stop. He never stopped. Because Parker Schnabel didn't just mine the earth, he chased it. Streaming rights, merch deals, sponsorships. That $2,500 per episode salary? It added up fast. Some estimates say Parker was pulling in over $4 million a year when you factor in mining profits, TV payouts, and licensing deals. Even his crew? They were earning anywhere from $18,000 to $25,000 per episode. It was a machine, a well-oiled, money-making beast. But here's the twist. Parker Schnabel was never really chasing the cash. Not at his core. He was chasing legacy, trying to live up to his grandfather's name, trying to protect the crew that stood by him through every frozen nightmare, trying to prove that a small-town kid from Haines, Alaska, could take on the most cutthroat industry on Earth and win. That's why this moment hits different. This isn't some fame-hungry celebrity caught in scandal. This is Parker Schnabel, the mud-covered teenager who rose to mining legend. The man who built an empire with grit, grind, and a backhoe. And now, everything's on pause. His $16 million haul this season frozen. His Dominion claims under legal review. His royalty sites silent. His future uncertain. Discovery still airing Gold Rush, Season 15, but everyone watching feels it. No one's saying it out loud, but the weight is there. The golden boy of the Yukon is off the map. And that leaves one burning question. Does Parker Schnabel come back stronger than ever? Or has the gold run finally ended?